So, fertility. Talk to me about it.
Yeah. So when we decided to have Gus a year before, I'd had some fertility tests because my mum went through early menopause, as did my nan.
So, how old were they?
So before 40, all my mum,
Okay.
my nan, and my auntie all had gone through menopause before they were 40. My mum's not sure exactly when hers was because she was on the implant, and so it masked the menopause. She doesn't know exactly when it was, but it was at some point. And they all had kids in their early 20s.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
So we didn't know whether anyone could have kids like in their 30s because none of them had done. They'd all had their kids before they were 30. And so I was like, my mum she just always kind of said, she was just like, you know, it might be something that's like worth thinking about. I don't know if there's any sort of tests you can do, but just sort of like keep it in the back of your mind. And so I started looking into it, and I had a fertility test done. And so this would have been when I was 27, I think.
That's amazing that you did that at 27.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it just felt like, I don't know, I felt like having more information was never going to be a bad thing. And me and my boyfriend had been together for not ages, but not a short amount of time, like 2 years, which is like actually not that long at all. It was somewhere between like 2 or 3 years.
Do you want to have a baby with me? Because I'm going to go and get tested.
Yeah, exactly. But to be honest, I just thought it was going to come back and say like everything's absolutely fine. And so I went, had this test, and then they test two things. They test AMH, which is a hormone, and then they do an egg count. And both of mine came back as quite low. The AMH was really low compared to what it should be. And then my egg count was low as well. And
how did you feel?
Just so shocked. People talk about when you get when you get sort of bad news from a doctor, or when you have that talk, and it's like it's kind of washing over you, and you're not taking in any of the information. It's funny because like I'm a journalist and I'm so used to asking questions, and I would never just like sit there and take information and not have something to ask. But I didn't ask a single question.
Because you didn't think that...
Yeah,
you were shell shocked.
I was just completely shocked. And I was just, I think I was just processing it and taking it all in. And I was like, okay, well, what does this mean? Like, does it mean... And the doctor was saying things like, you know, it doesn't mean that you're infertile. It just means that, you know, the indicators are low. Like you might still be able to have children naturally and easily, just like with this and the history of early menopause. I would basically, his advice was, don't leave it any longer.
That's what I was going to say. Would they like just get on with it?
It was get on with it or freeze your eggs. Were basically the options that he gave me. And my boyfriend was sort of taking it all in. I just remember him asking all these questions and me not sort of paying attention to any of it. And
also, you're a bit like, it's me as well.
Yeah. It feels really... I don't know. It just feels really overwhelming, I think, because I think because as well, I always knew that I wanted kids. It's never something that I questioned. It was never something that I even really had to think about. It was just, I will at some point have children, was how I always thought about it. And I did this test, obviously, to kind of find out whether there was any risk of this early menopause, but I didn't really think through what would happen if I did get those results, or what it would mean if I couldn't. And I just wasn't expecting, I think, any kind of
that news.
Yeah, any kind of negative news. Negative in a way.
Negative is in where you thought your life was going, and you thought it was going to be easy.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I was just really, really, really shocked. And so the doctor said, and you know, so he was then talking about like egg freezing or embryo freezing, and I was just like, this is way too much information. And like, I've been with my boyfriend for 2 years. Like, I thought this was all going to be fine. I don't feel ready to have kids. Can I come back? Yeah. I was like, can I just have a minute to process this? And he was like, yeah, we can talk again in however long. And then I think I asked if I could have a follow-up test just to be sure. And he was like, yeah, we can run the same tests again in a few months' time, and we'll see what the results are, because sometimes the markers can change. So I did that, and it was a bit better, but it was very similar. And he was like, my advice doesn't change. And he was saying as well, especially if I wanted to have more than one, that he would he would advise that I make a decision sooner rather than later. So that was that. Me and my boyfriend were like, okay, well, shall we do this? And
should we start trying?
Yeah. And it was, I think, we said we wanted to do one more Glastonbury, actually.
Yeah. Should we do after Glastonbury? Sounds good.
Should we do one more Glastonbury? And so we had, or I think, there was something that was planned. It wasn't actually Glastonbury. I think it was a holiday. But we were like, right, we'll give ourselves a year, and we will then start trying after that, and we'll see what happens. And I mean, I was really lucky that I actually managed to fall pregnant quite easily after that, and quite quickly, which then in itself was this whole other shock where I was like,
I'm pregnant.
Like all of a sudden I was pregnant really quickly, and I was expecting it to take months, and I'd prepared myself for potentially this long, difficult journey. So then I had
then also it does go on his sperm.
Yeah.
So he must have super sperm.
Which he did.
Is he really proud of himself? Is he like, I'm so proud of himself? Sperm.
Well, that's what he said because we both got tested at the same time. And when the doctor was giving us, our results, he was going through it all. And I remember that night, we've been talking about it all day, and I was quite upset and quite overwhelmed, and we were going to sleep. I think just before we went to sleep, I think I was about to fall off, and he's like, did you hear what he said about me though? And I was like, what? And he was like, really, really strong swimmers.
You're like, well, you better use them swimmers and get me pregnant as soon as I want you to.
Exactly. So now he's super proud of himself. And yeah, so I mean, we were lucky that it was easy in the end. And it makes me question sometimes. It's made me question since sort of these tests, and I think you put so much weight on them, and I had to go private. It wasn't available through the NHS. They're not, as far as I'm aware, available through the NHS except for in certain situations. And I do now have a question around sort of, I don't know, not the legitimacy.
Ellie, should we do some investigations
I think I
together?
should.
Should we go together and do it? Because I'm up for it. I bloody love it. I don't know what the word is. I question everything like that, and also I'm such a massive believer in the mindset. So you've obviously got a strong mind, but someone else, they've been given that information, that's in their head, that's in their mind, they're not going to fall pregnant because they've been told they're not going to fall pregnant. I'm just so about how we tell people news. With my partner Tom, with a cancer diagnosis, I said to everyone, do not give him a prognosis. He never, ever had a prognosis, because he would have lived by that. He would have been ticking it off on a calendar. Well, they've told me I've only got 3 months to live, so I'm gonna die then. And when you actually look at it, when the research Tom did, you had 6 to 18 months to live with his brain tumour. Tom died 18 months to the day. So I'm all about the power of the mind. Yeah. And I think giving someone that bit of paper and how you deliver news, I think it's such an importance. I just think that the way we do it in this country is, I don't know, I just think wording could be changed.
Yeah, and I think you're right, actually. And I think, because as well, we understandably trust medical professionals so much. So I think you put so much weight on what they're saying to you. And so when you have a doctor who specializes in fertility, for example, and knows everything about it.
He's God to you.
You can completely and I trusted everything he said. So when he says to me, you need to start trying within a year if you want to have more than one child, then I was like, wow, okay, right, that means that's the only option available to me.
Yeah.
And now I question, actually, did I just take that as gospel because it was a doctor telling me that, and because I was vulnerable at the time, and because I was overwhelmed?
Yeah. Honestly, when I was put in the situations I was put in, I questioned everything and questioned every doctor and didn't take everything as gospel. I would go back and ask them. And if you'd have asked Kelsey 15 years ago, would she have done that? She would have just sat in the room and been like, yo. But do you know what I mean? It makes you're on a different journey. And that's why I'm such a truth seeker now, because I think some things just trigger in your head and give you a light bulb moment. You're like, what's the truth in this?
Yeah, 100%.
Well, this podcast needs to be called Truth Seekers.
That's it.
The Truth Seekers.
The Truth Seekers. Yeah, it's interesting though. I think you're right. And now I think I would approach it so differently in that situation again. And it almost feels weird when I look back at myself in that situation and how different.
But what I'm saying to you is that when you're sat there and you're delivered that news, you couldn't even speak because God's spoken to you and you don't know what to say. But if you went now, you would be completely different.
Completely different.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. But no, I feel like there's so much to look into in that world because it's, yeah.
So, do you think you'll go again? Do you want another one, or are you happy with?
No, I think I would like another one. Yeah. So I think that is hopefully something that will happen at some point.
Because my mum, she had my brothers later on in life, and she had an earlier menopause. I mean, how old are you meant to be when you go into menopause?
I think like 50.
Yeah. See, mum was like, she's like, thanks, Kels, for this. I think she had Maxwell at like 41, so she went into menopause.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah, and that's it. And it's like, it is possible. And I think there's so much emotion tied up with pregnancy, infertility, and childbirth. It's like, I think there's emotion tied up with sort of any kind of like medical diagnosis, but it feels very prominent, I think, in this field, just because like it means so much to people, and it's like your whole idea of your life and what you thought your life was going to look like. And I think that it can feel like that can be shattered in a second. And so I think that it just kind of like blurs that line between medical advice and fact and science, and then also like people's feelings and emotions. And I think it can make it really, really complicated.
But I do think as well that even the advice that, like, did he say to you, the doctor, about a diet or how to boost your?
No, you're just like freeze your eggs
and that's it. And while you're at it,
have you got
me
thousands
20
and thousands of pounds?
Can you give me 20 grand whilst you're at it?
Yeah, exactly.